Wings is a BTS album that came out in 2016. It's more than just a theory that it's based on the book Demian. There's proof that it is, such as the quotes read in the songs. We felt that there were a lot of similarities between parts of Demian and the things we wanted to say. So we used a lot of objects and elements from Demian in our jacket photos and music videos. Kim Namjoon. Blood, Sweat and Tears, in my opinion, shows the story of the boys facing and giving in to their temptations. Kim Taehyung may be seen as the tempter, Max Demian, who encourages the others to the dark, immoral part of the world. Although at first glance, the lyrics may seem to be referring to a romantic relationship where they are submissive to their possessive partner, I believe they are referring to their temptations. They are submissive to Taehyung or those temptations, willing to sacrifice everything for what Taehyung shows them, what they desire. My blood, sweat, tears, my last dance too, just take 'em, take 'em. My blood, sweat, tears, my cold breath too, just take 'em, take 'em. My body, mind, soul, I know they're all yours. It's okay if I get drunk, I drink you now. I don't care if it hurts, tie me up. Even though I know I drink the poisonous holy grail. But your wings are devil's wings, behind your sweetness is bitter, bitter. While theorising, I've analysed many different parts of the imagery in the music video, all in different ways, from the roles of each member to their actions. Just as the music is about to start, the camera moves closer to the 7 boys. Behind Yoongi is a sign that says the tempter. This just links into the Demian quote, where Sinclair talks of Demian as a tempter. Jungkook's visuals look nothing short of ethereal. Perhaps the fact they look that way, and the fact that he even begins to float, may symbolise him succumbing to temptation. Namjoon's drinking and smoking may symbolise him succumbing to his temptation, as smoking and drinking are viewed as bad things just like temptations. Taehyung sitting on the rails of the balcony may be showing that he is waiting for someone to lead into the immoral world. The fact that he later jumps down from the balcony when the door is opened behind him just supports this more. During the start of the dance, Jungkook seemingly pulls Jimin up with an imaginary leash. Later, Hoseok's movements seem to momentarily dictate the others' movements, and even after this, Jin is shown wearing a collar for a brief moment. These moments and actions reinforce the themes of control and manipulation in the music video. The way they dance may very well be seen as appealing, whether it is just for the audience or for other reasons, such as this. Appealing and desire are both things that go together. Their temptations are appealing to them, and they dance in such a way to convey desire. Yoongi sits in a room with some kind of gas, or maybe some fog or other kind of vapour above him. He bunches his shirt up in his hand close to his neck, and almost pulls it away from himself, as if needing breathing space. He also talks of punishment, and the next time we hear him rap, he says that he knew it was poisoned but drank anyway. Perhaps all of that could show that Yoongi, who isn't allowing himself to be curious of the immoral world, also isn't allowed to ignore it all either. Hoseok and Yoongi's references to alcohol when referring to the temptations is just a temptation in itself. There is a recurring appearance of a kind of paint-looking substance. Namjoon drinks it mixed with some other liquid, Jungkook licks it off his finger, Hoseok shoots an arrow of it at Taehyung, to no avail, it doesn't get on Taehyung. Jimin cries it, and it leaks from the cracks in the statue after Jin kisses it. Perhaps it has something to do with the immoral world and becoming part of it, showing why Taehyung didn't get any on him, because he is the immoral realm, and why Yoongi had very little to do with it, because he wasn't trying to find the immoral world. The only time we actually see them getting down onto the floor in the dance is when Taehyung is stood and singing. This again reinforces power and control of the immoral realm and the tempter. The apples on their plates when they are all sat together are symbolic of their temptations. In the Bible story about Adam and Eve, the temptation was to eat the forbidden fruit, the apple from the tree. When Jimin and Yoongi are kneeling together, Yoongi holds a blindfold and Jimin holds an apple. Later, Yoongi ties the blindfold over Jimin's eyes, much like how he held his hand over Jimin's eyes in the beginning. It's as if Yoongi wants to stop Jimin because he couldn't stop himself. However, branching out a little, Jimin bit his apple in the Japanese version of the music video. He has already had his temptation, explaining the paint staining his face as if he had cried it when he removes the blindfold. Additionally, at the start, Jimin moved Yoongi's hand away, but now he is tied to the door behind him, like a dog on a leash, once again reinforcing themes of control. Jin lets go of the balloon, then seems to reach for it again, as Namjoon reads the Demian quote. It's like Sinclair at first rejecting Demian, but then reaching out for him again in the future. Jin is always looking back or examining things. The last time he does this, Taehyung stops, covers Jin's eyes, and then reveals the statue to him. Perhaps Jin's curiosity is representative of Sinclair exploring the dark side of the world, which would explain why Jin's temptation is to accept the dark world and let the morality and immorality merge together. Jin's temptation is to welcome the dark side of the world by kissing the statue, which is a symbolism for Taehyung, who is Demian. Demian is theorized to be a part of Sinclair, just projected by his imagination, so Jin's final temptation is to accept the dark side of himself. The curtain rises from Taehyung as Jin walks to the statue. The curtain is revealing him, the dark world, ready to be accepted as Jin contemplates his acceptance of the immoral world. German quote above the mirror, which I'm not going to say because I will mess it all up, translates in English to, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." I interpreted it as, "You must accept the dark immorality for it to merge with the moral world and enlighten you." It's possible that everyone other than Taehyung, Jin, and maybe Yoongi are representative of Jin's curiosity of the immoral world. As soon as Jin kisses the statue, those shown outside of the dancing seem to be tired, even exasperated, or unbothered. If Jin has accepted it, the rest of him has no reason to be curious anymore. Jin cracking is a flaw in his otherwise perfect face, a mark showing that he is involved with the immoral world, quite like how Demian interpreted the mark of Cain, and how it simply set him apart, not because he was actually a bad person, but because he was different. Jin having a perfect face before the crack is his mark of being involved purely with the moral world. In the mirror scene, Jin stands by some lilies next to the mirror. These symbolize innocence and purity, but they are reflected in the mirror as a purple hyacinth, which means sorrow or to be sorry. All of this symbolizes that Jin has turned from innocence and purity to being sorry that he became part of the immoral world. Much like how in Demian, Sinclair doesn't fit right with his family after being introduced to the immoral realm. Returning points. A few things I forgot to mention or recently found out. The painting that is shown to be burning is quite similar to the painting that Sinclair paints in Demian. It's of a sparrowhawk and is symbolism for being set free or breaking free. Namjoon is actually drinking absinthe, a rather potent alcohol banned in many countries. It further symbolizes falling to alcoholism as a temptation. The statue behind Hoseok is of Mary mourning Jesus after his crucifixion. More simply, a mother mourning the loss of her son. One of Hoseok's themes across Wings is Mother. His solo song also references to Eva, Demian's mother, who was very caring. This may symbolize that Hoseok is not dead, but his mother would still mourn him because his innocence is dead. What I referred to as paint is actually wax. Japanese music video. Jungkook rises from a mattress in a room with paint-stained walls. Later, he turns back to see paint stained on the mattress where he had been lying, in a faint shape of wings, symbolizing Taehyung's wings in the original music video, where he is representative of Demian, or the immoral world. The painting Jin looks at is recurring in both music videos, leading me to believe that it is of more relevance than some of the other pieces of art. It is called The Fall of the Rebel Angels, and was painted in 1562 by Peter Bruegel. The work details the first confrontation between good and evil, when the most powerful angel, Lucifer, turns upon the divine authority. This easily links back to Jin's merging with the immoral realm, as well as the good, like Sinclair and Demian. While he looks, the painting fades, instead revealing the angel statue from the original music video. Once again, Yoongi holds his hands over Jimin's eyes, only for Jimin to lower them and run away. My point remains that Yoongi is trying to protect him from something, like the immoral world, although now it may well be protecting Jimin from seeing himself, as Jimin later goes on to find the room with another version of himself in it, only for Yoongi to cover the eyes of the Jimin who had already been there. Namjoon makes the same drink he had in the original for Jungkook and makes him drink it. It cuts to Jimin eating the apple. The apple and drink are temptations. The drink makes Jungkook delirious and ill. Yoongi, who has been trying to protect Jimin, tries to calm Jungkook only to be pushed away again. The Jimin in the room is contemplating eating the apple, taking his temptation, and the other Jimin is looking for him to either convince him to do so or convince him to not do it. Taehyung's temptation may very well be violence. Jin is shown beating him up, but when he backs away and apologizes, Taehyung smiles or grins and proceeds to do the same thing to Jin. Later, he is seen climbing stairs while scratching the adjacent wall with a knife. He has the same expression on his face as before. Jin is backing away from cracks on the floor, symbolizing the mark of the immoral world. At the end, the screen cracked anyway, a symbol of Jin cracking at the end of the original music video. This time, Jin doesn't crack because he gave in to no temptation during the Japanese music video. Art without points. Fall of the Rebel Angels by Bruegel is the painting Jin looks at in both music videos. Landscape with the Fall of Icarus, assumed to be by Bruegel, is in Jungkook's swing room as well as being the backdrop Taehyung jumps into. The Lament for Icarus by Herbert James Draper is behind Jungkook in the swing room. Statue of the Egyptian-turned-Greek god Harpocrates is coincidentally a statue with both wings and a similar gesture to Jungkook when he licks the wax off his finger. Jimin is sat on what seems to be a pedestal for the statue behind him, which is called Crouching Venus. When Jungkook floats in the swing room, an illusionistic ceiling painting by Gyugio Quaglio is seen above him. In the main room, where they are dancing, there are two sculptures behind them. Perseus with the head of Medusa by Benvenuto Cellini and a statue of Livia Drusilla, who was the third and final wife of Julius Augustus. Behind Hosiok, in the fountain, is Pieta, Lamentation, made by Michelangelo. Final thoughts. He too was a tempter. He too was a link to the evil world with which I no longer wanted to have anything to do. Sinclair talking about Demian, or Namjoon's quote. Blood, Sweat and Tears is a very interesting music video and song, to say the least. I always thought the visuals were just beautiful, but I heard a theory that touched upon Demian, and off I went to read a PDF of it, so hopefully I could better understand Wings. Instead, I found a very interesting book that helped me make my own theory, and as many times as it can be called a long shot, it was very fun to come up with. The art list was not something I put together myself, as I am not that cultured to know any of it without Google, and apparently Tumblr, if you'll believe it. One or two elements of this theory belong to other theorists and not me, but what can I say? It's only natural to be influenced by something you already know. However, I am proud to say that the vast majority of the points made in this are from my own observations and my own time spent watching and listening over both music videos. To conclude, I will make some points more clear. Jin represents Sinclair, but this is more easily noticeable in the original music video. Taehyung represents Demian, or the immoral realm, and takes on the role of a tempter. Yoongi never wanted to be part of the immoral realm, and tried to protect the curious Jimin from it instead. Jimin, Jungkook, Hoseok and Namjoon represent Jin's curiosity of the immoral realm. Everyone had a temptation, some more clearer than others, some in both music videos and some only in one. Namjoon, Hoseok and Yoongi all show the temptation of alcohol, along with Jungkook in the Japanese music video. Jin's was to accept the dark side of himself by kissing the winged statue. Jimin's was to eat the apple, the forbidden fruit, and in the Japanese music video, Taehyung's temptation was violence. There are biblical themes and meanings behind each painting and sculpture used, both of which I only barely touched upon. Boy meets evil. My sin was not specifically this or that, but consisted of having shaken hands with the devil. The devil held me in his clutches. The enemy was behind me. The name Boy Meets Evil in itself is signifying a boy, Hoseok, Sinclair, discovering the immoral realm. Lyrics: It's getting dark, the light in my future. By this, he means that his innocence is dimming more and more in his future. instead being replaced with temptation, the immoral realm, and perhaps even being addicted to it. Being insanely happy, I was a fool addicted to your sweetness. This again links to the idea of Hoseok being addicted to his temptations. Also like how Sinclair fell into a phase of alcoholism and was addicted to the immoral realm. The Demian quote is from the heart of the book, where Sinclair first steps into the immoral realm by stealing and lying to his father. It fits nicely, as after the quote is read, Hoseok is seen stepping over from light to dark. Imagery. Hoseok walks from the light room to the dark room, a symbol of stepping over into the dark room from the light realm. Whenever the scenery switches, it goes to having fluorescent stains all over the room. The darkness is symbolic of only dipping into the immoral realm, whereas the fluorescence is a symbol of being completely within it. Wing shadows appear behind Hoseok, as a symbol of Taehyung, the tempter in Blood, Sweat and Tears. Begin. The realms of day and night, two different worlds coming from two opposite poles, mingled at this time. Begin is Jungkook's short film or solo song in Wings, taking place after he has presumably died in a car crash in previous theories and music videos. He is living in some kind of purgatory, or at least presumably he is. Lyrics. The 15-year-old me who had nothing. This fits with Sinclair prior to his painting phase, when he was a teen drunk with nothing. Additionally, Jungkook sings this line in the short film before the painting is shown. Imagery. Jungkook either had no sin or was trying to break free from purgatory. He has no sin because his short film is representative of Sinclair growing up, ironic as he is the youngest member, and he was trying to break free as he misses Yoongi, has the Sparrowhawk drawing and a bird on his shirt that looks quite similar. Jungkook may very well represent Sinclair, and Yoongi is his Demian. Some people believe the painting is a mix of Jungkook and Yoongi, just like how Sinclair's painting is a mix of himself and Demian. Additionally, in the book, Sinclair believes he had burned the painting, and the painting in the short film starts to burn. The Demian quote is from the start of the book, where we are first introduced to the idea of a light realm and a dark realm. Lie. My parents' house made up one realm. This realm was familiar to me in almost every way. Mother and father, love and strictness, model behaviour and school. Lie is Jimin's solo song or short film in Wings, taking place presumably after he attempts to drown himself in his bathtub. Lyrics. Caught in a lie. This lie he talks about is the hospital, the hell he is wishing to be freed from. Alternatively, it is his mental state that put him there. Imagery. The bed next to him is empty and presumably belonged to Hoseok. This idea is supported when Jimin swings a pillow out at where Hoseok would be, while smiling and most likely reminiscing about when he used to have pillow fights with Hoseok. An apple drops into water, symbolizing Jimin's temptation or sin, and the bathtub he tried to drown himself in. In Christianity, suicide is seen as a sin because it robs a person of the sanctity of life and the full time given to them by God alone. Jimin dances almost desperately, or as if he is fighting something in his head, in front of a reverse overflowing bathtub. It is as if, in his mind, he is reversing everything, only to fall back into it. He falls backwards into the bathtub and ends up in his hospital bed. After biting the apple, the temptation, he has the courage to disobey the camera watching him by turning it away to face the painting instead. His second sin is disobedience. The Demian quote is from the start of the book, where Sinclair is first explaining the idea of the moral and immoral realm. Stigma. It was the first fissure in the columns that had upheld my childhood which every individual must destroy before he can become himself. Such fissures and rents grow together again, heal and are forgotten, but in the most secret recesses they may continue to live and bleed. Stigma is Taehyung's solo song or short film. The word stigma means a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. In this case, Taehyung's guilt is his stigma caused by his murder of his father. Lyrics: like pieces of glass that we can't turn back. Taehyung's wound from his guilt, his stigma, is getting deeper. Ironically, he references to glass that can't be turned back, like how he stabbed his father to death with a smashed alcohol bottle in previous theories and music videos. Please punish me, please pardon my crime, please. He just wants his guilt to go away. As much as he is scared to reveal his sin, he also wants to get it out and to be punished so it's all over. Imagery: Taehyung is carving the word Abraxas into a drawing presumably he spray painted onto the garage door. Abraxas is a Gnostic god, referenced many times in Damien, a god that is the source of all being and ground of all existence, a conception of God that incorporates both good and evil in one entity. While he is being questioned, the guilt of his real crime eats at him. He is then shown running, a representation of trying to get away from the guilt, only to be hit by it again. Hoseok's Ever painting is shown in the pupil of his eye, both a link to Hoseok and mother's love, which he may have very well needed. An empty phone box is shown briefly, a link to Namjoon, who he presumably has a chance to call after he is questioned. A small, fluffy white dog comes to him in his mind, representative of his pure childhood innocence. He plays with it for a moment, until a cage, representative of his guilt, lowers around him. While he tries to keep the puppy, his innocence, it escapes from both him and the guilt and leaves him. A smashing sound can be heard, as well as smashed glass shards seen. This is just linking back to the murder weapon of his father. The Damien quote is when Sinclair is talking of his first sin that made him feel superior even to his father. He felt like a criminal being cross-examined for stealing a loaf of bread when his actual crime is murder. This is like Stigma, where Taehyung is caught only for vandalism when his actual crime was murdering his father. First love. There are numerous ways in which God can make us lonely and lead us back to ourselves. This was the way he dealt with me at that time. Yoongi, who was Jungkook's friend, is in a state of mourning after Jungkook died in the car crash. Everything ends up reminding him of Jungkook. Lyrics: I set you aflame, I saw no further than my nose, that time, crying and laughing. Those moments alone with you, now they're memories. As well as the truth, he is speaking of Jungkook and how Yoongi took him for granted, and now it's just memories. Imagery: Yoongi breaks into a music shop to play a piano. This is how he was led back to himself, linking even to the song and his real past, when he first played the piano as a child. The whistling of Begin is in his head, presumably. While he looks for the source, he is nearly hit by a car, representing how Jungkook died. Later, what looks like a bloodstain is on the road, like someone was just hit. Yoongi runs back to the music shop, only to see that the car had crashed into the front. Piano, which was hit, begins to burn, showing both what he talks about in the song and that his first love dies the same way Jungkook does, hit by a car. The Damien quote is Sinclair talking about a time when he has succumbed to temptations, become a pure student and a bad person, and he feels as if he is being punished, yet also led back to himself. Yoongi is led back to himself by reminders of his friend, Jungkook, like the whistling of Begin. Reflection. The other realm, however, overlapping half of our house, was completely different. A loud mixture of horrendous, intriguing, frightful, mysterious things, including slaughterhouses and prisons, drunkards and screeching fishwives, carving cows, horses sinking to their death, tales of robberies, murders, and suicides. Namjoon is a friend of Taehyung, someone who Taehyung is dependent on. Presumably, he has made a promise to Taehyung to protect him. Lyrics: I wish I could love myself. He struggled to love himself, perhaps being ashamed of the person he has become. The fact that he sings this after failing to get Taehyung's call suggests that he blames himself for not being able to protect Taehyung. Imagery: Namjoon has the Sparrowhawk painting in the envelope presumably given to him before Jungkook died. He tattoos it on his arm before burning it, like Sinclair thinking he burned his painting, and drops it into his drink, like the absinthe in Blood, Sweat and Tears, and how you are supposed to drop burning sugar into the drink. Colour, like ink or the fluorescent stains symbolising the immoral world, travel up his newly tattooed arm, like the defiance of breaking free is his sin. He references beer, a temptation. It is symbolising that perhaps he has fallen to a vicious circle of pointlessness, emptiness in the immoral world with temporary pleasures such as alcohol. His dislike towards himself and his portrayed situation or behaviour in the short film also support this. He is faced with his reflection because he is ashamed of himself or hates himself. One of the only reasons he cares anymore is Taehyung and his friends. Taehyung's shattered bottle is shown again, and then the mirrors Namjoon wakes up to all shatter simultaneously, like the bottle. He hears the phone box ring as Taehyung is calling, but the box is chained shut and Namjoon can't get inside in time. As the camera pans out away from Namjoon and the phone box, it shows that now the word liar is spray painted on the side. This is linking back to Namjoon supposedly telling Taehyung he will be there for him, and now Taehyung is calling him out for not being there for him. The Demian quote is from when Sinclair talks about the darker realm of his parents' house, opposite to the quote in Lie. Coincidentally, one of the themes or sins in reflection is lying. Mama. With a face that resembled her son's, timeless, ageless and full of inner strength, the beautiful woman smiled with dignity. Her gaze was fulfillment, her greeting a homecoming. Silently, I stretched my hands out to her. Ho-seok is a patient in an asylum or hospital for Munchausen syndrome, because he craves attention and to be cared for, because his mother never did that for him. As a result of this, his sin is perhaps greed, from attention-seeking. Lyrics. The lyrics are generally just ironic in this. Ho-seok's character was abandoned by his mother, but the solo song is thanking his real mother for all the things she did for him in his dreams. Imagery. After taking the pill, his room switches to one stained with fluorescence, and we see a flash of wings, like the wing silhouette behind him, before he loses control of himself. This represents entering the immoral realm. He wakes up in a seemingly sunny day on natural surroundings, but still trapped in the room. The fluorescence has been replaced by enormous chalky-looking stains, as if he is in the moral realm, but the immoral realm still partly remains, though not as intense. He eats part of a Snickers and smiles at the painting outside his room, which fades to a painting of Eva, Demian's mother, as he walks away. As if Ho-seok eating the Snickers made things better, like the adverts portray, and he could feel some kind of motherly love through the painting. Additionally, in the book Demian, Eva is portrayed as a very caring mother figure to anyone who might need her. This also links to the reasoning for the Demian quote being about Eva. The Demian quote is Sinclair describing Eva, Demian's mother, who was portrayed as a universal mother figure. This fits nicely, Ho-seok's theme being something to do with mother, and needing some kind of motherly love after being abandoned by his own mother in previous theories and music videos. Awake. The bird fights its way out of the egg. The egg is the world. Who would be born first must destroy a world. The bird flies to God. That God's name is Abraxas. Jin, as in the Blood, Sweat and Tears music video, is representative of Sinclair. He doesn't have a specific sin, but broke free anyway, and willingly became part of and merged with the immoral realm, like in Blood, Sweat and Tears where he willingly kisses the winged statue. Lyrics. Like those flower petals there, wings, like other things, are impossible. The flower petals are impossible, as while in the immoral realm, innocence is impossible. And by petals, Jin means the lily petals he had to burn in the short film. We know that lilies represent innocence. Even so, I clutch 6 flowers in my hands. Once again, he refers to lilies. The fact that he only mentions 6 flowers represents that they are either the innocence of his friends, or his friends. Despite everything, he is still trying to hold on to them and keep them all together. It seems it's come time to leave. Jin was fated to grow up and become part of the immoral realm at some point, but he never wanted to, just gave in at the end. Imagery. Jin sits at the table with an apple, temptation, on his plate in front of him. He seems to contemplate eating it before dropping it on the floor, showing that he doesn't have to succumb to temptation to be part of the immoral realm. He tries to take a picture of the lilies in a vase at the table, symbolizing innocence, before the dark envelops the room and he is unable to take it. This reinforces the idea that innocence can't be found within the immoral world. Jin walks down the dark hallway, following the apple to the light room, presumably his bedroom. In there, he burns 6 lily petals, representing the loss of his friend's innocence. The world starts to spin and contort, then he sees a bird's shadow, presumably a sparrowhawk, as Jin is breaking free, and it was mentioned in the quote. He goes back to the dark hallway, walking out of the lights and to the framed sparrowhawk painting at the other end of the hallway. He is breaking free. Additionally, the wallpaper is an Abraxas design, similar to what Taehyung graffitied on the garage door. Abraxas is the Gnostic god, which combines both bad and good in one entity. The merging of the moral and immoral realms I have mentioned so many times link back to this god Abraxas. As he continues down the hallway, the camera pans back to his room, where on the floor there are pictures, presumably taken by Jin, of things in the house representing his friends. Writing on the mirror is Namjoon. The writing is seen both in Reflection and Awake, as well as in previous theories and music videos. Eva is Hoseok, referencing to the whole mother and motherly love theme. Apple is Jimin, who is seen with an apple most often, in Blood, Sweat and Tears, both versions, concept photos, and his short film and solo song. Piano is Yoongi, linking to his theme and the actual basis of his solo song, First Love. Sparrowhawk is Jungkook, as he is seen with both of Sinclair's paintings, the face and the Sparrowhawk, in Begin. Apart from Jin, Jungkook is the closest to Sinclair. Scratches on the door are Taehyung, symbolizing his knife in the Japanese music video for Blood, Sweat and Tears, the glass shard / broken bottle in Stigma, and his theme or sin of violence. The Demian quote is from when Sinclair sends his painting to the Sparrowhawk to Demian, receiving the quote as a response in the form of a note. This is also the first time we are introduced to the Sparrowhawk symbolizing breaking free. Icarus theory. In Blood, Sweat and Tears, there is a recurring theme and appearance of Icarus, an angel who disobeyed his father and flew too high up. The heat from the sun melted the wax of his wings, causing him to fall down into the ocean, landscape with the fall of Icarus, which also happens to be the painting Taehyung jumps into from the balcony. Jungkook's swing room also has the Lament for Icarus painting, which is ironic as in the same room he has the wax, supposedly signifying the melting of Icarus's wings, on his finger. Additionally, landscape with the fall of Icarus is briefly in Jungkook's swing room. Wax drops off the candle onto Jungkook's finger. Taehyung's wings are missing, and instead on the statue that represents him, but cannot move, they are unable to be lost again, because unlike Taehyung, the statue cannot fly too close to the sun and melt them. Taehyung is Icarus, Demian, and the immoral realm. Icarus was tempted to the sin of disobedience, meaning that Taehyung is the tempter, the immoral realm, and the tempted all at once. This also explains why he had a temptation or sin in the Japanese music video of Blood, Sweat and Tears, and in his short film.